we wanted to take a look at our comprehensive plan. This comprehensive plan was originally developed in 1995, 96, 97, and published in 98, so it is now officially 22 years old. And we refer to it, it does have a lot of information about Circleville from that time period. We've had a lot of changes over the years. It lists a lot of industry that we've lost. Of course, we've got new schools in place now, so all the elementary schools have been consolidated into one. And but there's still some good ideas in here I think that we need to look at going forward. One thing in the comprehensive plan that it does recommend that every 5 years the plan is reviewed and updated, and that really hasn't happened on a regular basis to my knowledge. Of course, I've only been here 3 years, but we wanted to just have a conversation about that tonight. Michelle Blanton is interested in it, so she's joining us this evening and wanted to talk a little bit about it.
So I'm very interested in the comprehensive plan, and I have gone through and put post-it notes on things that are no longer here, taken out pieces and parts, and so I just want to kind of go through just kind of more of what is in the plan. So there was the plan process that was done, and what was done is there was a large focus group that was done of stakeholders across the county. It did include county organizations and county people, because it is bigger than just the city. So then they had 4 meetings. Each ward council person invited 15 people to smaller meetings. That was 60 people, and then each at-large member invited 5 people from each ward. And so that was an additional 60 people. So the first meeting that they had, they reviewed data, existing land use, initiating discussion on goals, and formulated objectives for the whole planning process. And there was about 24 objectives that they wanted to achieve by going through the comprehensive plan process. And they used Edsel and Associates to facilitate the process. So it was an outside person who didn't have any kind of say or anything like that into the city. The second meeting was to finalize those plan goals and objectives, and then a preliminary comprehensive plan. The third and fourth meeting reviewed the final plan and the recommendations. As Chairperson Sherry Tice said, it did go before Planning and Zoning and Council committees in 1998, and then was codified through ordinance in 1998. So some of the goal formulations that were there were some assets, things that we had good in the community: the Y pumpkin show, friendly people, work ethic, perceptions of areas, pro-business, small town size character, the affinity to Columbus and Lancaster at the time, good utilities, people take pride in their homes. It was a good Central Ohio Midwest location. You'll see that a lot of these are things that they're assets that we still have. Large number of industrial employers, 9 Fortune 500 companies were here at the time that this plan was done in 1998. So that has changed since then. Some liabilities that we had at the time: absence of activities and facilities for youth, expensive housing compared to Franklin County, lack of public transit, poor east-west access from one side of 22 to the other, lack of shopping, maintenance of city alleys. I'm just kind of going through here. It's all in there. I just wrote down some. And then there's a regional context, which has kind of changed in that we are now a member of MORPC, and we have a really good relationship with P3 and One Columbus, formerly Columbus 2020. And so that has kind of increased since this plan was originally created. So they also based a lot of this on population, and so the population numbers that were used in this plan were from the 1980 and 1990 census. And so now we would be able to use the 2000 and 2010 census. Depending on when we start this process, we could use 2010 and 2020 census numbers. And I'll talk a little bit about that question of when we start here in a little bit. Several maps of sewer, minor and major arteries of roads throughout the city, etc. It goes into land use analysis, and if some people may not know, we actually have a land use plan also that goes through 3 specific plots of land throughout around the city, one of which has already been achieved with the building of the new school. We've kind of utilized one of those. It goes through a community services assessment, talking about our park facilities, compares it to the National Recreation Park Standards and by acreage, and there's a large table in there where it compares what we have versus what they think we should have, or that would meet the needs of a wide variety. Transportation patterns, infrastructure and utilities, which I find very interesting because the last few months we've been talking about sewer, water, stormwater, all of those plans, and that is in this comprehensive plan. So I just made a list of some changes that have happened. Ohio Christian University has grown and has been annexed into the city. Circle D is gone, Pickaway Lanes is gone, the movie theater is gone, the pool is closed, we have new schools. Heritage Pond Development has grown exponentially. GE has closed. And so I know some of those are private businesses. And one of the concerns was people were already going out of town. And so if people were already going out of town with those things here, they're probably going out of town even more now.
And it was interesting that one of the things they identified in the plan was a lack of things for the youth to do.
Yeah.
Even though we had
all of those items.
and 2 drive-in movies
Right.
on top of the cinema.
Yeah.
We had a lot back in the day, but yet the youth were still saying there's nothing to do.
Right. So some other new things, we have the Southport development, Kreitz Road, the connector between Court Street and 23, beautiful fairgrounds, Progress Parkway. So my recommendation, or what I would have to say, is that there are great things in the plan, but as Chairman Tice has said, is that maybe it's time for us to at least review it. Kind of see what we have done and what we can do in the future. So by definition, the comprehensive plan is to be used frequently, and I'm sure the service department and the administration uses it, very, a lot. We've heard it said over the last few months that that's not in line with the comprehensive plan, or we need to change the plan. So let's stop talking about it and let's kind of do it. And again, maybe we focus on compiling what we have done. And so those are just some notes that I made and just wanted to kind of talk about it. Chairman Tice and I have talked about a conflict with the timing of this, with having small group meetings with the COVID restrictions and trying to get a large group of people together, as well as a conflict with the Charter Commission going on the ballot. So those are 2 concerns that I would raise in trying to revise it right now.
Yes, and if we hire a professional firm, a consulting firm, planning firm, then that's going to be a financial impact as well. So I think we discussed potentially thinking about this for 2021 or 2022 as a formal review, but we as council and strategic planning committee specifically need to be thinking about it and be aware. One thing that you mentioned that struck me as I was reviewing is that with the additional 20 acres that we were able to purchase at Barthelmess Park, that has brought our acreage of park, area, much into a better proportion as far as recommendations. And thank you to the park department and the county for helping us with that. We appreciate that. Certainly.
The service department does have an electronic version of this as well as some paper for those who may want to see it.
And one of the goals on the comprehensive plan was creation of a major park at Northridge Road and 188 and Pontius Road. And I think we've accomplished that. Here we are, sitting in this wonderful park. So thank you to everyone who made that happen in the past. Something that it calls for in here that we could, potentially do is put some bike lanes in on some of our wider streets. So that's something I don't really we look at with the service department. Pickaway Street is very wide and would allow potentially for a bike lane there. Washington, some of the streets are very tight and would not certainly, but Mound Street is also wide. It would be a nice east-west place to give a specific safe zone for bike riders to travel the city.
I did also want to add that on page 68, it goes into specific topics and specific goals and strategies to meet those goals.
Do you think in all that review that you've done with that, is there enough in this plan to continue to work for, or should it be? Because that's the kind of conflict that I am hearing and agree with you. Do we gather together again which we should do sometime in the near future, to plan for the next 5 years and then review that versus how much is in there,
Yeah.
so. Or could we just, some things are still in alignment with what we're trying to do at Circleville, and we can focus on that.
I think there are some places where there are definite opportunities and there are groups that are already in place. Like one section is historic preservation, and something that we didn't have before was the Uptown Circleville group that is focusing specifically on the downtown area for that historic preservation. They could be a catalyst for how we meet those goals and the strategies for that. The next sections are general development. Again, there's a lot of bike path kind of pictures here to bring those in. And so I think there is a lot here, and again, I've only been on council for 3 years. Some of us are new also, so there may be things that are in the works that we just don't maybe know about.
Many of the goals seem to remain the same.
Yeah.
Really, it's advancing economic development, affordable housing, the things that we discussed. And I went back and looked at our priorities that we created at the January strategy meeting. And we've done pretty well getting the ones that I've written down. The charter plan, getting a timeline and moving forward with that, which we have facilitated. Reviewing the comprehensive plan was one of those items that we identified. Establishing the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is underway. Getting planning and zoning to do more planning and working with them, so that may be something we should talk to the Planning and Zoning Committee specifically. Applying for grants and to help offset those costs. The parks, making progress on Ted Lewis Park, and as I mentioned earlier, we've got that rolling. And continued downtown revitalization and improvements, which is critical, I think, to maintain the character of our community. So, and like Michelle said, we have specific people with Uptown Circleville. We need to support their efforts as council. Really do.
Yes, so a couple of the other ways that we got input on for the comprehensive plan was a youth survey that was given to juniors and seniors at the high school, and they took results, and so some of their highest items that they were for: beautification of the downtown area, 200 people said for, development of housing, new schools, 206, and so again, we listened to what they had to say there. improvement of downtown business area, kind of goes along with the beautification. Parks, etc. were all items. And then there was also a survey that was sent out through the water bill. They sent out 900, we got 353 back. So just over a third of the surveys that went out, we got back. Just wanted to kind of bring it up for discussion that we've been hearing a lot about the comprehensive plan and whether businesses or properties that are coming into town, how do they fit within the overall plan of the city and who we want to be. And one thing that I've learned through strategic planning, it's all the same whether it's in the private sector or public sector, is that your plan is the lens by which you operate. And so there may be something that someone brings to the table, but it may not be a priority for that organization. It may be that somebody else could meet that need a little bit better. And so knowing exactly who we want to be, what we want to have here, and what we want to provide for the citizens of the city of Circleville.
And I think what you said around the administration and what they're doing, is more communication around that, because they're more the implementers of the things like you're talking about. So talking to Terry and the roads and seeing, you know, where the budget lies and what opportunity would be. I think Pickaway makes a great idea. I think Mound will be a little tough because there's parking on both sides, so I don't know if you could have a bike path on Mound right downtown. If you get out a little bit, it'd be all right. But yeah, just things like that of nature and what else they're pushing towards. That would be a great starting place.
And that was kind of the concern also with the charter commission, is with the charter commission, you could have a city manager who may have a planning background, who would maybe kind of help us implement even more thoroughly a comprehensive plan. Not that the administration isn't doing that now, but may be able to also give us insight on the development of the plan and kind of how to execute it with what we have.